Yeah, you can go.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Nigerian Space. Today we're going to be speaking about the mental health and its misconceptions. I think the main reason for that is the 18th to the 24th of this month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we just wanted to, as usual, just have an open discussion, try to hopefully help us unlearn some certain misconceptions surrounding mental health and as usual, you have Fair, you have Shub, you have myself, and we have the
Hey,
beautiful Sabrina, who is going to be our main point of information today, as this is actually her field. If this is your first time joining us today, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're back, welcome back. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment,
all
yeah,
right.
and share our content with your friends. Okay, so I don't know if I'm okay to just throw the floor open to Sabrina straight away. If there's anything you just want to introduce to us in terms of mental health, I think we're going to be speaking around depression, anxiety, and whatever comments we get from our viewers who are locked in.
Yeah. Well, as you did mention, it is mental health awareness month. So it is very important that we do shed light on the fact mental illness is so real, but mental health is far more important. So I always like to speak in terms of saying address and don't suppress. And no one is exempt from mental illness. So if you're not addressing it and you're suppressing it, you are going to deter yourself from even getting the better help that you need.
Great, great. Wait, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, we get a brief introduction from Sabrina. Tell us about yourself, your ties with Nigeria, and your who you are professionally, so everybody can get to meet
Yes.
you and know you.
Yes. So my father is Nigerian. My mother is African American. So I was born here in the United States. I'm
Oh,
currently in my master's to become a licensed professional counselor. I currently work as an intervention specialist in mental health. I've been in the field for about a good 7 to 10 years.
wow,
Prior to doing this, I did behavioral therapy with autism. So I'm well versed in terms of the whole spectrum. We're going to talk
wow.
about neurotypical and also the mental health disorders. So that's my background. I'm continuously educating myself as I'm not all known to it, but it is definitely an interesting field to be in. And I would say that it is my niche in life, my passion, my calling. So
Great.
it brings me here.
Talking about autism, I think that's another thing we need to talk about later on probably in another show or something, because I don't think Nigerians really understand what autism is. They call it something else, and that's another educational moment that I think Nigerians would need to learn about what autism is and not call it something else. I know back then in Nigeria, they used to in the olden days they didn't understand sickle cell, and they
Mm-hmm.
would call it something else. They
Mm-hmm.
would say there is it abiku or something. That's the Yoruba word for it. For
Mm-hmm.
so that's pretty much what this show is about. We're trying to re-educate and enlighten Nigerians back home and Nigerians even here on issues that affects us. So we're glad to have you here, Sabrina. Good to know you have Nigerian blood in you. So hopefully we can get some of that. Great, Diola, go ahead.
Yeah, so that was a very lovely introduction. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for that.
No.
So like I said, I think just because it's what I really do see in the Nigerian space and our social media, people throw around the word depression quite
Mm-hmm.
a lot, or people claim they're depressed. While I'm not knocking on anyone who genuinely does feel that they are depressed, I do feel that there is a misuse of the word um depressed. Like for us personally, people tend to say, oh, like, oh, I'm broke, it's money that can cure this depression, or I'm so depressed, I'm broke, I don't have money, I'm depressed, or I've not gone out in days, I'm depressed. But I just want to see if there's a way you can just kind of clear the air, because
Yes.
personally like you said, no one is excluded from mental health. No one at all is excluded from it. So if you could just please shed some light on perhaps the difference between actually being in a state of depression, feeling momentarily depressed, and just actual sadness.
Yes. So there are we're human. We're going to have moments of sadness. Without happy, you can't have sad. Without angry, you can't have happy. But depression, the reason why it's so distinct as opposed to sadness is when it's a duration of time that you are experiencing sadness. So
Mm,
by way of the DSM-5 standards, it has to occur for a duration of time. It can't be, oh, in the moment, I don't have money, I'm depressed. I think people overgeneralize depressed and depression as a way to cop out of dealing with life's realities. And in reality, we really just need to understand that we need to lean on coping skills. We are not going to sit up here and throw these labels out here, and there's really people suffering with depression. There's people who literally don't shower. There's
mm,
people who their hopelessness, they're not eating. They even, and depression also comes with ups and downs. There's some people who are super energized and then they have down moments. So
mm,
depression is not always just, oh, I'm sad, I'm sulking, I don't have money, I broke up with my boyfriend, I have no food. You're just having a momentary moment of sadness.
mm.
Depression is, it's like 3 or more
Mm-hmm.
months or a long, up to 6 months, where it becomes absolutely impairing your lifestyle and the way you live, your social relationships, how you're able to function in your daily life. That's when depression is something that is real. That's when a person is diagnosed with depression. So,
So,
sorry, go ahead.
so you're saying that I can be depressed if I lose like $30,000 from my account, $20,000, like it suddenly someone just steals it out of my account. You think that can bring this depression? Like,
That can bring on depression, but I'm saying
yeah,
initially,
I don't
if
have
you
to wait for the six
that
months. I'll get it right there. Right?
you're sad, you're feeling sad, but if it exceeds a week, if it exceeds 2 weeks, if it exceeds a month, then it leads into depression. Now
Oh
you are
wow.
struggling with depression. But in the moment, of course, I mean, somebody withdraws a big amount or takes a big amount from your account, that is definitely going to play in on your mental, your emotional well-being. Also, if you think about a whole person, let's think of a whole
Mm,
person, and that is maybe someone who has the basic needs of food, shelter, transportation, money, a job. Okay. That's a whole person in a circle. And you start to take away the job, you take away the money, you take away the food. Now, this person is now going to be struggling with mental illness because their basic needs are not met. So, yes, if
oh,
someone was to take 30,000 from you and that was all you had in your account and no other means or way to make that money back, you can very well spiral down to depression.
mm. Okay.
Very well.
Good, good. So pretty much
Hi,
depression
Sabrina.
is a spiral. It's not something that just comes like that
No.
from just from there. Oh, okay. Good
Okay.
to know.
All right. Hi, Sabrina. I have a question.
Yes.
From the outside, how can you tell when someone is going through depression?
Mm,
Um, I would say look at the signs. If this person is typically a person who's social, they're usually getting up, they shower daily, they're combing their hair, they're out and about, and then they start isolating themselves. They're no longer coming out of their room. They're staying in a dark room. They may not eat. They may openly and verbally say, I'm feeling hopeless. I don't want to go any further. I don't want to do anything. Those are some very, very valid signs that a person might be struggling with depression.
mm,
Mm, mm, mm.
So once
Okay.
they
This
start
is
deviating from their normalcy and their normal being,
no, no, sir.
that's when.
Okay. 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 So just a spin-off from your response. Is it possible for someone to be depressed and covering it up? Like they still do their everyday thing, but they are still depressed. Is it possible or it doesn't happen?
Yes, it's possible. It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think that's why, and I'm going to speak in terms of Nigerians, you do see a lot of people who they might even be coming out and saying, oh, I'm depressed because of money, but they probably have been struggling with depression far longer than that, if that be the case.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that that's all, but that's oftentimes where it might have been a string of events that led to it, or maybe it's genetic, something that along the line has caused them to be depressed, and they've suppressed it for so long that now finally, when the money's gone, oh, I'm depressed because I don't have money, but it could have been an underlying issue all along.
Mm.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, you can
And
very
how about
well.
if everything, sorry, how about if everything is actually, because I think it's one thing when things are actually going bad and you're able to pinpoint, okay, I think
Mhm.
I can link my depression to I've lost a job or I've lost a
Right.
relationship or
Mhm.
I've lost something. But what actually happens when everything's going good? Like you're relatively happy in your relationship. It's nothing outside of the normal ups and downs of relationships. Your job's going well. Like in the face of other people, you genuinely look happy, as we see sometimes with um musicians that end up taking their life or people
Mhm.
that turn to drugs and have a serious drug abuse problem. But outside, everything seems to be fine.
Mhm.
How, I mean, how do you help or how do you reach out to someone in that situation, or how do you come out of that situation if you're able to, or what's the way around?
And that is the scary thing because it's like you said, how do you know? Everything seems well. You have money coming in, you have good, seemingly a good lifestyle. So how do we know? And that's the thing. It really is up to that person. And if you're close enough to that person to kind of see, those signs will begin to show up here and there, but it can be masked so well. So that's the tricky thing, is you never really know, especially when it's a celebrity or if it's someone who's in a high profile status. You won't really know if they're struggling
Mhm.
unless they're seeking professional help behind the scenes.
So this brings me to um, so you're pretty much saying that we can't we can't self-diagnose ourselves of depression, right? We
I wouldn't
cannot.
suggest it. I would suggest going to a professional. That way you can tell them the duration of time. And from then, that's when they say, okay, it very well may be depression, or it's just a moment of sadness. You're sulking a little bit. You're going through your emotions of the breakup or whatever it is that you dealt with. That was a significant change in your life.
Mm, yeah. So cool, cool, cool. I see one of the comments in the on the live. That's why it's fair and I were.
I
That's
was
why we're
wondering why
laughing.
you guys were laughing, and then I, when I clocked on, I was really, I was really trying to hold it back.
You see, that's
Oh,
the
this is
double
It's
word.
exactly what we mean about the Nigerian space. Like, please, this is a very serious issue. We're trying to unlearn certain things, but that was a
no,
moment
no,
of
no.
humor.
Let
That
me
was
just
a
ask
moment of
Sabrina.
humor because if I
Sabrina,
is
is
an
it
Arsenal
possible?
fan,
Yeah, Sabrina, is it possible as a sports fan that your team keeps losing and you go into depression? Is it possible? I'm just asking.
Um, that's a good question. We're human. As long, I think, as long as we're human, I mean, it can happen. If someone is a die-hard sports fan, and that is something that truly impacts their mind, then I'm yeah. But they would probably need some serious help because that's
if
drastic.
are you reaching
Okay,
out?
yes, I just want to be sure and
Are
certain
you
I'm not.
reaching out? Ife, are you reaching out? Talk to
So
us, please.
No,
he's diagnosing himself.
no, I'm fine now. I'm fine.
You're
Arsenal
fine
hasn't,
now.
yeah, Arsenal hasn't changed my lifestyle, so I think I'm okay.
Me,
Okay.
I got to put it out there too. I'm an Arsenal fan, and that's why I don't wear my jersey. I knew that this was going to happen on the day I wear my jersey to this show. I knew something was going to come up, and that's why I never do that. Well, cool, good, good. Any other questions from anyone?
Okay, so we
Yeah,
have a
we
comment
have.
from
Yeah,
Bamboo Motunrayo. She says,
Shukran.
um, okay, Shukran. She says, but seeing especially doesn't even help sometimes. I
Mm,
guess, Sabrina, you can speak to that.
Yes, this is where I come in and I say, honestly, what I'm very big on is seeing someone who looks like you. So make sure that you're finding someone who looks like you. That way, to some extent, you guys can resonate on the same page. I'm very big
mm,
on our own being in the profession because it's hard to go to someone who doesn't understand your struggles, who doesn't understand some similarities in their life as yours. And no, a therapist or a counselor is not going to be and be all and put a band aid and everything's going to be fine. There's also a lot of self work and self help that you have to do. And if you guys don't mind me, I'm also big on religion and counseling can both go hand in hand. They can coexist. Without
Mm,
God, without the work, is faith is dead. So you just have to be willing to do the work. When they tell you you need to work on this coping skill, you need to do this, you have to go home and do it. You have to practice it and start unpacking the
Okay.
baggage that you're holding on to.
Okay. And can I just follow on that comment also to say, um, I mean, I haven't personally been in that particular headspace, but I think it also rings true that sometimes, in as much as we're trying to be honest with the person we're speaking to,
Mm-hmm.
like
uh-oh.
we're cautious about oh yeah, sorry, I think I disappeared for a second.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, my internet. So what I was trying to say is sometimes I think it's very important to also, it's hard when you're bearing out your feelings, when you're stripping yourself naked in front of someone you really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes a friend of mine did actually admit to me, like 5 years after she was in therapy, that she really, even though she was saying therapy wasn't working at the time, she wasn't bearing it all. She
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel
Mm,
comfortable with that
Mm-hmm.
particular therapist to
Mm-hmm.
actually be like, okay, this is what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
This is point A to point. To her, she was ticking a box because she was referred. So she
Right.
was fighting that position. She was fighting the fact that she had to see the therapist. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a chore to her. It was just like, okay, you know what? I need to tick this box so that I can get back to my employment, so that I can carry on with the rest of my life. So for her, it was just like, I need to be here for 30 minutes. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
fine. I'm going to be here. So I think that usually is an issue as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
mm,
And there's also that initial resistance. I actually had a client tell me this the other day is I'm just doing this because I need to be independent and I need to graduate my program. So this is why
Hmm.
I'm here. A lot of times it is just checking off the box so that you can be done and you're really not doing the deep down work.
mm.
Hmm. Very true. Very
Which,
true.
which,
Okay. Mm.
that's a good. I like the part of getting to see a therapist and getting someone to help you out. But like, if we're talking about the Nigerian space, and Shukran just mentioned something about living in a country like this, I don't even think I'll find a therapist that looks like me. That's one part. And then another part is, like you said we should be inclusive. We need to have more Nigerian therapists. But even if we have more Nigerian therapists, you're complaining about you lost money, you don't have money, and especially in a country like Nigeria where not even everyone can get have enough money to get food on the table and they're
Mm-hmm.
depressed. How how I know therapy does work sometimes, and it
Mm-hmm.
does work when it works. But how else can you beat depression or handle depression on your own? Or what's the best advice you can give someone? Like, how do you go about getting
Um,
um, your healing or whatever you want?
I would say if therapy is not going to work for you and you don't think that you can find someone, I would just say you have to start self-reflecting. You have to start looking in the mirror. As tough as it is, we have to start looking in the mirror. And because even if we do go to therapy, if we go to counseling, we can seek the most professionals possible and spend all our dollars on professionals. But if we are not truly looking in the mirror and saying, I need to face this head on, I need to focus on this, I need to do this, then how are we truly going to heal ourselves?
Mm.
You have to be willing, like I said, to do the work, to sit down and look in the mirror and say, this is something that I want to change. It has to
Would you
come.
would you would you think? Do you think speaking to friends or family can help with your depression, or it can make it worse?
If they are someone who can give you sound advice and they are truly for you and they're very supportive, I think that your community or anyone that's in your family can definitely help you. Because at
Yeah,
the end of the day,
I was going to touch on that. Sorry, sorry to interrupt. I was going to touch on that in terms of when you reach out to certain people. I mean, like you
mhm,
said, we're addressing misconceptions today majorly. I think a major misconception that I've seen, or three words that I've seen, not really three words. I don't know why I said three words. It's 5 words that I've seen floating about on the Nigerian space social media, especially where suicide comes into play is you see people saying suicide is not an option, and to them, they feel like they're giving solid advice. I find it really I find it really cringe when I see those words because at the end of the day, if I'm in a state where I feel like suicide really is my way out,
Mm-hmm.
when you're there saying suicide is not an option, technically it is. It's not the best option, it's not the right option. It might,
Mm-hmm.
it might not seem fair to the people you will leave behind, but
Mm-hmm.
when you say suicide is not an option to someone who is literally considering suicide as an option, I find it's almost as if you're dismissing them. So I feel like
Yeah,
when it does come to you seeking advice from certain people, someone who is already suffering from a mental illness, those are not the right kind of words to say, I personally find. And I
yeah,
know that people
I
don't
agree.
say these things to be insensitive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that anyone deliberately says those things to be insensitive, but I just want to know what are some kind of words of, I don't know, affirmation, I guess, that or you can
before
communicate to someone who is in that kind of headspace.
before you
And what are some
answer,
kind of things you don't say?
yeah, before you answer too, I want to add to that too. Like I heard someone too say something to me that you don't tell someone that is depressed. Okay, she's just taking a minute. I know someone also mentioned it to me that you don't tell someone that is depressed that it's okay, you'll be fine. I've heard words like that too, that you don't say that to them. So I don't
Yeah.
know. We need
Mhm.
to,
And I think Nigerians are in the habit of, even if it is whatever it is that the person is going through, and if you're having to intervene, they come to this
Hmm.
point and feel like everybody has problems. He or she should go and sort it out.
wow,
And
Yeah,
all right.
like suck it up, or it's enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
They
I think
always say,
Hmm.
wow, wow, all right, wow, wow, okay.
Yeah.
a lot of Nigerians do that because I actually have a friend
And like,
went to college together, and he actually committed suicide last year.
yeah,
And
yeah.
when we were hearing the
Wow.
stories, and different events were happening, there's a time the families came together and be like, you know what, you're a man, you can handle yourself. Everyone has problems, and they left him instead of doing more of checkups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
And I think that is something, that's another misconception. It doesn't take anything from you to check up on someone, but a person is going, even if you think the person is just seeking attention, have that conversation with the person. That's what I think. Like,
Yes.
hey, rather than you saying, you know what, I'm not going to pick this person's call. You're a man, you're a woman of age, you can handle yourself. And I think his family washing their hands off him pushed him to that point. Series of events, like Sabrina said, it's been going on for a while, that he actually left home, moved into a hotel, they started looking for him, and he just wrote a note, and that was it.
yeah.
So I think
So
that's another issue Nigerians do have. Like, I understand it can be frustrating when someone is demanding too much. Oh, I have this problem, I have that problem, but
Mm-hmm.
I think you should just check up on people. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I.
I
so
think, yeah.
Sabina,
So I
on
think
touching up
the
on,
main question is kind of like, what are the things we should?
yeah,
Because I don't really believe
how do you
there's a
check up
one
on
size
people?
fit all for, yeah. How so? What are the things you should probably steer away from saying? Because I don't think there's
Mm,
anything that's appropriate to say. But what are the things you should probably steer away from saying that are not appropriate?
Yes, I think the main thing is, like you said, is first off checking on people, but saying the words like, "Oh, you'll be okay. It's fine. Everybody has problems. Everybody has issues that they go through. Suicide is not an option." What your sadness and what your depression may look like might not look like mine. My coping
mm,
skills are going to be different from yours. My way out might be death. Your way out might be, if you were to get something better in life, you would not be depressed. So we have to also consider us being human and everybody's mind not being structured the same way.
mm.
It's very, we need to steer away from that whole thing of, it's fine, you'll be okay. Stop sulking, stop crying. You're a man, you're a woman. That's not okay. Definitely not
So,
okay. And I think That's why I'm very big on the quote, it's okay not to be okay. And once people start realizing that you can be sad, just don't allow yourself to slip into that depression. You have to start finding some kind of hope, start honing in on your support system, honing in on things that make you happy. And sometimes happy does not always mean being productive, and happy does not always mean being at the top or being successful. Your happiness can simply be going for a walk, a phone call, a TV show, binge watching a show. That can be happiness for you. So I think it's a lot
Mm.
of just
Or watching your team beat another team that you ate. That
there
could
you
be
go.
happiness.
There you go. So just knowing like it's okay not to be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like that. I wrote that down actually. That's going
Yeah.
to be me.
So
Everyone's going to be hearing that.
let me ask you this, Sabrina, because there are people from Nigeria watching. Once this live is over, some people will still go back and watch it. And the question for the average Nigerian will be, hey, you guys can say, see a therapist, see someone. That's because you're abroad, you have those facilities. As an
Mm-hmm.
average Nigerian, where you most likely don't have even the money or
Mm-hmm.
know anyone who is a therapist, what
Mm-hmm.
would be your advice as to seeking help?
Um, and that's what sucks about Nigeria. There's not a lot of resources. But I know even here in the United States, there are some community centers where they offer services, even if you don't have the money, you don't have the insurance, because it's so prevalent. They have that. Unfortunately, Nigeria is not quite on board yet. But once again, lean in on your support system and don't try to pretend that it's okay. Don't pretend. If you're pretending, then who's going to help you? They say closed mouths don't get fed. And even
Mm.
if you can't speak for yourself, speak to someone that you can entrust this information with, who can advocate for you, so that you are getting the help that you need.
And
Mm.
someone said frustration level of depression. Is frustration a level of depression? And in Nigeria, depression seems like a scam people use to get attention and other things. Yeah, I kind of understand that part because Nigerians like using big words,
Mm-hmm.
and so depression is that big word that people would rather use and throw around when they're frustrated or when they're sad or
Mm.
so. Yeah,
Yeah, especially the whole I'm broke, I'm depressed, only money in my account can make me.
yeah. Rich people too get
Mm,
depressed.
yeah. I think it's just the same with everything though. In everything that's a major challenge in society, rape, consent, feminism. Like there will always be the minority, or sometimes, unfortunately, the majority is the minority. There will always be those people who have their own agenda to push, whatever it is. I mean, there are people who come online in Nigeria because they don't have the resources and they are genuinely looking for help to fund an operation, to fund their kids going to school, to get an education. There are people who genuinely are in need, and that is their only option, to come online and literally beg to survive. It doesn't,
Mm.
I don't feel like we should then, I mean, it does make you kind of raise up your guards, like you're kind of wary about certain people. But one thing I always say is, if you are in a position to help, if you know that, because if you know you're in a position to let go of that 5,000 naira that this person is giving you to help you with, then you should do it.
But that's a problem though. When like it's hard to be able to tell if someone is depressed. If someone really needs money and you have data and you feel with your data, the best thing for you to do is go on social media to beg for money. I mean, I understand that fact that there are a lot of people that really, really need it, but I wouldn't say that's the best move to try to get money. I wouldn't also say that it is good to I wouldn't say that it's good to to spend the money you have on data just so you can go online to beg. Why don't you must you even have data? Why don't you use the money for something else? But like you said, I'm not disputing the fact that there are people that really need the money and they
Hmm.
probably just got free Wi-Fi from somewhere and then they're
Yeah.
begging online. But it's just tough being on the other side too. Like, would I just see someone online and just send money to them? Like it's very tough for
Yeah,
me to decide on helping. I see a lot of
of
things online. I'm
course.
like, can I help? But should I
Yeah,
even help? If I help now, am
yeah.
I opening up a kind of a a full kind of giveaway warriors coming against
Yes.
at me? Like, okay, bro, give me. You get so it's tough. It's a tough place to be at. I
Okay.
think
So
the
go
question I
ahead.
want to ask now, I don't know if I can ask that right now or maybe wait to the end. I wanted to ask that I have a problem with they always say when you're depressed, don't use any substance, right? I think I'm
Mhm.
correct about that. No drinking, no smoking, nothing, no weed or anything can help your depression. Don't do that. But I'm always against medications. That's one thing about me. I'd rather use natural means
Mhm.
to cure myself against medications. But right now we have depression medications out there that has been causing people to even die from accidents and stuff and things that have been happening to them. So my own question is, you're saying substance should not be used to cure depression, or is substance is actually the pills? Is it even curing it, or is it just allowing you to um, um, handle the depression? So I want to know substance abuse, drugs, and all that. Drugs, I mean legal drugs, no, that prescribed from your physician. What is the what is the safe to you? What would you say is the best way to handle depression? You okay? You've been diagnosed. You have it already. What should you do? How should you go about healing yourself?
Well, if it's a long term, if it's major depressive disorder, where it's been a significant impairment in your life, some medication does help people stabilize, and they're able to cope with their daily lives. And then for some, even me being in the field, I would try to do all other things and exhaust all other measures before medication, just because I don't want to be dependent on it. But I have seen it
Mm,
work for those who have been struggling with long term depression. So let's say, because also you have to, we're talking about depression, but sometimes we have to make sure that a person is not misdiagnosed, because
yeah.
sometimes if a person is struggling with money or they're struggling with something that is temporary, it could just be an adjustment disorder. It may not be depression. So
Mm,
they're be just they're having a hard time adjusting to their new normalcy or something that has happened that has been drastic. So that's another
yeah.
thing, making sure that there's no misdiagnosing of a person. And that's why they always say don't diagnose yourself.
I think that's the biggest thing, that misdiagnosing.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I know. That's one thing. That's one of the reasons why I'm very like. It's not like I don't like going to the hospital. I like going to. I know I'll go for my checkup, my regular checkup,
Mm-hmm.
but I know diagnosis is from different symptoms that
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna check out different symptoms and be like, oh, okay, this looks like this. What if
Mm-hmm.
we're wrongly diagnosed and you are on depression medication already, and then eventually they find out that, oh, he was actually really just broke or
Mm-hmm.
something just
Mm-hmm.
happened to him, and you already started the medication already. So I guess what I'm learning from you now is medication is really for long-term depression, not for the onset of depression, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good to know. Anybody else has any
Yeah,
questions
so
or?
I have a question. There's this saying that we all use not one size fits all, meaning in different situations, different people will
Mm-hmm.
take different actions. So in terms of mental health, will you have five different people handle the same mental health, the same depression differently?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I worded the question right now. What I'm trying to say is you have five different people
Right.
having the same type of depression. Will they handle it differently?
Yes. Yes. Like you said, it doesn't look the same to everyone. They're going to react to it differently. Their behaviors might be different. I mean, I know that the main things associated with depression is hopelessness, loss of appetite, and you're not doing your daily things that you were once participating in. And another person might still be doing that, and maybe they're just not eating, or maybe they're crying more, they're sulking more, or that person may be giving away their things because they're now having suicidal ideations. So 5 different people may be exhibiting different parts of the depression disorder itself.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to be sure.
Good, good. I think we're like 35 minutes into the show. We should be wrapping up pretty soon. Diola, you got something to say? Any more questions?
Yes, yes, I didn't actually realize that time had really gone by. I just feel like since we've really spoken about depression today, maybe we should just keep in line with that. There's another aspect of depression which I think if you're very active on social media in the Nigerian space, it was really talked about this week. And it was about postpartum
Mm-hmm.
depression.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure about the level of awareness of postpartum depression. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure of what's considered normal. I'm not sure when you're actually meant to seek help.
Yeah.
And because I remember a friend of mine, when she did have her baby a couple of years ago, she was saying she felt bad. Like she didn't tell me this until a good 3 or 6 months down the line, but she felt bad because everything she had heard about childbirth before she had her child is like, you go through the pains. Once you hold your baby in your arm, the
Mm-hmm.
pain disappears and you're overwhelmed with
Mm-hmm.
this presence of love. And she said she's not gonna lie, she didn't feel that in that moment. What she felt was tired, exhausted. Yeah, she was happy that she was holding her child, but
Mm-hmm.
the way that she had envisioned this overwhelming feeling of love
Mm-hmm.
didn't come. So she actually started to think there was something wrong with her.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
So I'm not sure if you can shed a bit of light on postpartum depression and how it is and what's normal and what
Yeah.
isn't considered normal.
Absolutely. And my daughter is actually 9 months. And so when I had her, after I had her, I did have a string of emotions. I was crying. I thought I was struggling with postpartum, but it actually was just my hormones regulating. And that once again goes back to the duration of time that your friend was experienced. Like she wasn't happy about it, although she embraced her baby. She didn't want to harm the baby. If she didn't say, oh, when my baby cries, I want to shake my baby or throw my baby. If she wasn't regretting having the child, then those are definitely not clear signs she's okay. She's not struggling with postpartum. It's just a matter of the checklist of, do you want to hurt your baby? If your baby's crying and you don't want to hold your baby, you're not embracing your baby, then that would definitely be a cause for concern. But the general emotions that you're getting because you still have all those hormones going on, it's okay. For her to not be embracing it, of course you're going to be tired. Your body just went through significant change.
mm, yeah. I know postpartum depression is real, and I've seen someone experience it before. And I didn't know what it meant at that time. I was very little, and I didn't know what it meant at that time. But I don't know how she got out of it. She's still alive till now. I knew the lady wanted to. She was about to set the whole house on fire. Like she put kerosene back in Nigeria. Then she poured kerosene on herself, poured it on the kids, and was about to set the whole house on fire before she was stopped. And I was like, okay, what's going on? I heard the story, and I was like, okay, was she? Nigerians will always take it back to a village that they are doing that from a village or something. And that's what they
Ritualism.
did. They're like,
Mm,
oh, our village people have come to visit her. She just had a baby. So I
mm,
don't know, but I remember someone just said, take her away from the house and keep her somewhere. Like, I think they took the person away. She was not home for a while. They took her away for a while. So I know postpartum is real, in depression is real in Nigeria. And sadly, even for me, I I I didn't know what it meant until I got enlightened that okay, this happens to most women, some women after childbirth. So I would really like for that to be something that Nigerians need to be aware of, especially men need to be aware of that, and husbands need to be aware of that. Even if you can't go for therapy to get healed, just try to be able to
mm.
deal with your wife when she's doing all that. And that's That's a tough thing for every. I don't know. Even thank God, I didn't experience it. I never experienced it for myself personally in my marriage. But
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't know how you advise a man or family to handle postpartum depression, especially coming
Okay.
from Nigeria, from our
Mm-hmm.
space of Ayele or villages chasing the person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have a few comments from Kazim. He said, my concept of depression is finding yourself alone in a space you have gone to alone. And when you realize that the things you do in this space don't conform with the norms of the real world. He also said, you will become scared realizing you are lost from the real world. This, I believe, hardly happens within the African system as a result of communal living.
Mm.
Mm.
I think I get where it's coming from. I think,
Yes.
yeah, a lot of Nigerians don't even know they're depressed because you
Mm-hmm.
have family around, you have people, you always have people around you.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say this, that a lot of Nigerians won't know they're depressed, but if you watch the way some people react, like you said, react to some situations, like this guy's not
Yes.
acting normal.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a way. I mean, you can. Did we all have back in high school, the secondary school? That's what we call it in Nigeria. You would have some friends that they are the die-hard. They are ready to do any crazy thing. It's
Right.
not. It could be a sign of depression. Like he just wants to act out. But we
Mm-hmm.
that are normal in quotes, we
Mm-hmm.
just feel like, why is this guy acting like this? Why is it like that? So
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard to diagnose, well, self-diagnose or to realize or know that your friend or family member has depression because we're always all together and you're
Mm-hmm.
not all alone by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think. If anybody else thinks something
I
else, but
agree.
yeah,
I agree entirely.
Hmm.
very, very tough.
Okay, if
Okay.
there, so do we have any comments, any other comments that
No,
you'd like us
that,
to
that,
address?
that, no, that was the last that's the last one, and I think I'm on board with what Shubham said. It's 100% spot on. So I guess we just have to know, how to identify when people are not acting normal, and how to follow up with them.
Mm.
And just be in the know of things, just being
Okay.
aware and always self-educating and not afraid to ask questions. We Nigerians, we tend to be prideful. It's okay to ask questions and to not know things. That's the problem. We have to be in the know and start educating ourselves a lot more, especially for generations to come.
Yeah, I think
Mm.
when I was growing up, and I think Shoops will share this too, the upbringing, we didn't believe in mental health or
Mm-hmm.
depression. We
Mm-hmm.
will joke and say, bad government is what is causing depression,
Mm-hmm.
bad roads is what
Mm-hmm.
is causing depression. But I think with the how do I put it now? More people on social media, with everything going on social media now, people are getting to see that yes, people actually are depressed. People are
Mm-hmm.
jumping off the
Mm-hmm.
bridge, like Shubo said. People are trying to pour acid on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people are getting enlightened a little bit, although we're still not there yet. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure
Mm-hmm.
if you sit down outside with 10 people, 9 out of 10 of them will not believe in depression. So,
Mm.
like I think that's something we need to educate ourselves about. So another thing is, when you're chatting on WhatsApp with people back home and they're giving you gist about somebody, no matter how juicy it is, from what you're reading, it's showing signs of depression.
Mm-hmm.
Depression, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just consuming the gist, I think that's where you should now reply and say, I think this person is depressed or this person is having mental health issues. You need to check up on and not just get carried away with the gist and like, oh, the person did this, yes. And you just
Mm-hmm.
that because
Yeah.
Yeah.
sadly, that's what many of us do when they start telling us story about how someone is behaving. You just keep consuming this, the conversation.
Mm.
Even if
Mm,
from what you're reading, you're seeing signs of depression, we don't say, hey, I think you should, check up or reach out and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think I'm pretty much the same in terms of growing up in Nigeria. I would say the only thing that I would have considered to have been a mental health illness is actually seeing madmen roaming around, like people who are on the extreme end, like they have
Mm-hmm.
literally lost their mind. They're probably, unfortunately, even beyond saving. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a serious chemical imbalance in
Mm-hmm.
their brain and has really
Mm-hmm.
affected everything. And even their family members have abandoned them. And
Mm-hmm.
again, growing up, I didn't actually know it was an illness. I
Right.
actually thought, because what you hear is you hear, oh, he
family,
did something, or
village.
Yes. Yes.
juju backfired, or they are doing him from his village. So
Mm-hmm.
even personally, I think I don't know, I was well into my late teens, early 20s before I actually even understood that there was actually more to mental health than literal madness.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm,
I think we just have to, like we always say, you have to unlearn and
Yes.
re-educate yourself. There are things
Yes.
we pass through university, we pass through the formal educational systems, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't teach us a lot of things that we need for real life skills. I think
Absolutely.
it's left for us to re-educate ourselves
Mm-hmm.
when things are trending on social media, rather than just forwarding it to your friends and
Mm-hmm.
kicking in the DM.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's not even about that person. Sometimes it's about enlightening yourself, because you never
Absolutely.
know. You never know whether there's going to be a family member, a
Mm-hmm.
dear friend who is in that same situation, and how you're meant to deal with that situation. We
Mm-hmm.
really touched on depression today. We're always so keen to make sure we're keeping are still within time, but there are so many other aspects of mental health that we were not able to touch on today. Anxiety is one of them as
Mm-hmm.
well. But I just felt like depression and the misconception of
Mm-hmm.
depression is a major thing that I have noticed amongst the Nigerian space, both amongst our youth, the millennials, Generation Z, and the older ones as well. So just try and read up on certain things. If you feel like any of the topics that we've raised today have affected you in one way or the other, um, use your internet to go online, try
Mm-hmm.
and see if there are. Because I feel like another thing is we tend to really bash things that go on in Nigeria. We tend to say, oh, Nigeria doesn't have.
Right.
And even though it might not be enough, you would find that when you go online, you might even just Google, how to deal with depression in
Yes.
Nigeria, and you might, come across certain numbers. It
Mm-hmm.
might not manifest in the exact ways that we've spoken about today in terms of
Mm-hmm.
therapy, counseling, but you might be able to speak to someone.
Mm-hmm.
I find like sometimes also, if you're someone that's not really open about speaking about your problems, you don't want to become the gist in your friend's gossip corner. I don't think it's necessary sometimes to actually speak about the actual root cause of what you think is a problem. If you have a close friend that you trust, just hit them up and just say, hey, I'm just, in the mood to talk. What's up? How you doing? What's
Yes.
going on? How are things going with you? Watch things that lift your spirit as well. Listen to music that lifts your spirit as well.
Absolutely.
So I feel like those are my closing comments
Yeah.
for today.
Very well said, Adiola.
Sabrina, do you have any final words for Nigerians?
Yes, like as I do want to piggyback on what she said, is just find your people. Find your people who are going to uplift your spirit. Find your music. Do whatever it is that's going to make you happy. Let's stop worrying about what you think others are going to say. And you really have to do the work. Do the work. Depression is real. And like she said, you never know when it's going to be a family member. You never know when it's going to be a close friend, or you never know if it's going to be you. So, what are you going to do to prevent this from happening? What work can you put in now that's going to stop? Let's start advocating. Let's use our words. Let's hold on to one another and check in on one another. It doesn't hurt to do so.
Great. Thank you. Diola.
Oh, okay. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, Sabrina. I've
No
learned
problem.
so many things. I think the favorite thing I've learned today, and my WhatsApp people are in trouble. Everyone's gonna hear that it's okay not to be okay. Like it's okay. I feel like sometimes we really do mount so much pressure on ourselves.
Yes.
We really do mount so much pressure that we do start to feel overwhelmed. And in that moment, it probably isn't a severe case of a mental illness or a mental, like your mental health deteriorating, or you're just feeling overwhelmed, and it's
Yes.
okay to not be okay. So, as usual, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Follow all our social media handles. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment, and see you again next week. Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Have a great week ahead.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
all right,
Bye.
bye bye, guys.
Bye.